What is up, YouTubes? It is Thursday, September 3rd, and we got some more spoilers to check out for Zendikar Rising. And I'm going to check out some from Tuesday, because the video I uploaded, there's some more spoilers that were done, and there's some really good cards. We also have no glasses on right now, because just got back from the gym, which is great, because the gym we go to, no one else uses right now. I mean, it's a really small gym, but anyway, point is, spoilers, that's what we're here to talk about. And there's some really good ones. I love that we're seeing even more party matter type cards, like Malakir Blood Priest, and cards like this. We're seeing a lot of good two-headed giant type cards, so hopefully we can all get to those, COVID craziness permitting. Fingers crossed there. But I love the party mechanic. Could not be more excited about it. The first card, though, that really caught my eye today is this Roiling Regrowth. This card seems crazy good. You get to sack a land. I guess you get to. That's not exactly exciting, but instant speed, you sack a land, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, could be different colors, and then put them on the battlefield tapped. So it's like on your opponent's end step, you sack your blue land and you go get a blue and a red. So you fix your mana, you ramp. It's just all good. This is, I can't imagine this isn't going to be a Commander, I don't say staple, but a very commonly played card in Commander. Yeah, and then we're seeing this new, I don't know how else to phrase it, but like paradigm shift from cards that look at that top X cards, but they're trying to remove the drawback from it. So Adventure Awaits, this card I think is going to be phenomenal for limited. You look at the top 5, you may reveal a creature card from among them and put it in your hand. Put the rest on your bottom, but if you don't take one from that 5, you then just get to draw a card. So you get to basically search the top 5, see if there's a card you really need that gets you out of whatever situation or gets you ahead, and if there's not, then you're like, I'll just throw them all on the bottom instead of taking a pointless 2-drop and get to draw a card. So if nothing else, it gets you 6 cards into your library to find that next thing. That seems like a really, just really good value. Early game, mid game, late game, you're going to be really happy to play this. Green's looking rather strong so far. Then we see more of these flip cards. Life's good. We see Archon of Emeria, which I didn't know this little lore for you all. Archons are not the flying thing. It's not the thing riding the flying thing. Archons, these are all considered one unit of one mind. One creature makes it an Archon, or that's one of the unique characteristics of being an Archon. It used to kind of be less of a griffin looking thing, but now they've just kind of mutated into thing riding other winged thing is an Archon. But it's cool that it's like one, you got to think of it as one beast, one creature, as opposed to 2 separate things just pairing up. Yeah, this is also going to be a very commonly played card, I imagine, probably in Standard and Commander. Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn, so it's a little limiting on yourself, but you're probably fine with that. And then non-basic lands, your opponent's play, enter the battlefield tapped, which is extremely powerful in this set, because most of the lands we've seen, save the full art basics, are non-basic, meaning all of those are coming into play tapped for your opponent. So that's good for you, not so good for them. Seagate Stormcaller's fine. It's got kicker, which means I like it more than other cards that don't have kicker. But when you cast it, it gets to copy something, seems good. And then we have this card, this Moss Hog, very fitting. And it's interesting because ETBs, you search land for your library for a basic forest or plains, put it in your hand, great. But the other part is players cannot pay life or sacrifice non-land permanents to cast spells or activate abilities. So like in Commander, your opponents can no longer Ashnod's Altar anything. Seems good, and white-green is rarely looking to sacrifice their own stuff for benefit, so it like shuts down people who like to play black. So anyone out there who likes to play black in Commander, expect to see this card a lot. And then we get into this crazy card, which I'm not even going to pretend I know how to read, but it's interesting because it just feels like a really powerful card. For 2 and a red, you get an enchantment with Landfall, that every time that land ETBs, you essentially get ahead on cards. You get to exile cards, and you get to play them as long as they remain exiled. It's not like one at a time, which makes this card feel really, really good. And at the beginning of your end step, if there's cards exiled with Valid Cut, put them into their owner's graveyard. Oh, no, sorry, they don't just build on each other. But at the beginning of the end step, instead of you just losing those cards forever, they go into the graveyard, which can definitely be worked with in Commander, could be seen as a good thing. And then it deals that much damage to each opponent. I'm assuming it's equal to the number of cards exiled under it, because it's, I mean, this is a translation. That's why it's kind of awkward wording there. But that feels like a really strong card in Commander, and even in Standard. I'm curious, depending on how many graveyard shenanigans are playable, how good this card is, if it makes the cut for Tier 1 type decks. Crawling Barrens, I love the art. Big fan of just this mechanic. The feel of this is that it's a mana sink, so if you're playing limited, you better make sure you have instant speed removal, because if nothing else, on your end step, your opponent can just pump whatever mana they have left over in the mid to late game, make this thing bigger and bigger to the point where you can't stop it, and it's just going to crawl over the finish line, as it were, and win them the game. That's yeah, that's kind of good. Now, what's Relic Robber do whenever it deals combat damage to a player? That player creates a 0/1 colorless goblin construct artifact creature with it can't block, and beginning of your upkeep, this creature does 1 damage to you. I love just the flavor of that. That's fantastic. What else we got? We're seeing more removal. Black's showing like it's making people sacrifice stuff, remove stuff, but nothing, not like super efficient instant speed removal quite yet. I think this was the card that blew me away the most. Zagras, Thief of Heartbeats. Well, the name's kind of ridiculous. I will say I'm also pretty happy that my Edgar Commander deck is having multiple cards that I'm now going to have to find spots for, or definitely going to be competing to make that deck list. But it costs 1 less for each creature in your party. Big fan of that, because it's not like a 6 mana 4/4 that has flying, death touch, and haste isn't already efficient enough. Now we have to make it potentially even less than 6 mana to cast. Other creatures you control have death touch. Ridiculous. And then whenever a creature control deals combat damage to a planeswalker, it has death touch for planeswalkers, essentially. I don't know what else to say other than that's a very efficient, some might say pushed card. Like the artwork though. And then Angel of Destiny. Here's where white gets a little unique. I'm actually a big fan of what they're doing here. It's a 2/6 flying double strike. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you and that player each gain that much life. So it's like, hey, I'm here to help you. We're both going to gain some life. I'm probably going to gain some. You're probably going to gain some. Why even bother blocking? You might want to block, because at the beginning of your end step, if you have at least 15 more life than your starting life total, each player Angel of Destiny attack this turn loses the game. So it's like a minor detail, you know? But that seems really good. And I just built a mono white Angels deck, so this will 100% go into it. Yes, definitely. As long as I pull one, I would love to pull one. We're seeing some awesome artwork too. Big fan of this Mind Carver card. 1 at ETBs, attached to target creature control, and then it gets +1/+0. It gets +3/+1 though instead, as long as an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. So we're seeing it's not ferocious. What's the mechanic that cares about more cards in the graveyard? Can't remember. Anyway, that's not the first card that says 8 or more cards in the graveyard though, so maybe that's going to keep being a thing. Now we're seeing, I want to touch on these Wednesday spoilers that came later in the day, because this card is what makes me nervous. You create tokens, it gives it's like a combat trick too for your non-angel tokens, great. But now we can basically have a spell that is not to be disregarded. Yeah, it's a late game spell, but it's really good. And if you don't need it for the late game, you pay 3 life and it turns into a land, which I'm imagining is going to be worth it. And this is what I'm just, now granted, they made it mythic, they made it really expensive, so it feels like it's on the, the ends. Like you only pay 2 life for a shock land. This makes you pay 3 for it. So it feels like they've really taken a cautious approach to making sure that this is balanced. I hope that's the case. You know what I mean? I hope it's the case. Soul Shatter is 100% going to be like that amazing card in 2-Headed Giant. If you and your teammate open one of these or multiple, you're going to be stoked, because only your opponents have to sacrifice stuff, and it gets rid of the biggest stuff they have. All kinds of good there. We're seeing a less efficient Llanowar Elves, but also one that could just come in as a land if you need it. There's a lot of good cards. I'm a big fan of this set so far, and it seems like my hesitations I brought up yesterday about these flip cards, it seems like Wizards has been very cautious, very mindful of how they're going to introduce these into the wild, and hopefully they're not super overpowered and we can just enjoy this new mechanic and get creative with it and come up with some good strategies. So yeah, that's it for me. Those are the spoilers for today, Thursday. What's the date? September 3rd. Hope y'all are well. What are you excited for? Love to hear what new cards that have been spoiled you're most excited for. Are you brewing up some decks? Do you have some ideas out there? But I'm going to get back to it. I got to go eat, because that's what you should do after you work out, is eat. Just throwing that out there for y'all. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Take it easy. Peace.